that you've done your basic exercises and understand the split system and the different exercises to develop your body parts, you're now ready for power exercises. Because it's the power exercises that builds the ultimate of mass and power into your body.
Without a doubt, bodybuilders produce some of the most striking physiques on the planet. They create a shape and proportion that is, at least by the aesthetics of physique competition, the most beautiful in human history. When they are in contest shape, nobody else on earth displays such definition, muscle separation, or vascularity. A top-level bodybuilder in contest condition looks like nothing less than a living anatomy chart. Qualities such as muscularity, shape, definition, and proportion are really the end products of a long process of training and diet. They represent the final product, and none of these attributes would be possible without a sufficient amount of the raw material of the whole enterprise, muscle. To succeed in the sport, a bodybuilder first has to build a solid, thick, fundamental structure of dense muscle mass.
Bodybuilders are obviously concerned with training for detail. Detail being cuts, definition, muscular symmetry, their proportion. That's what the judges are looking for on stage. But before you can train for detail, you got to train for size to get big, massive muscles.
Of course, the necessity to build a foundation of muscle doesn't just apply to would-be bodybuilding champions. Anyone wanting to build, shape, and develop his or her body with weight training for health, for athletics, or just trying to look and feel better is faced with the same challenge, building muscle mass. Most types of weight training, pioneered and developed by bodybuilders over the past several decades, do build muscle. But building the maximum amount of mass and strength possible requires a very specific approach to progressive resistance training and the application of certain Weider training principles more than others.
There is a specific type of training just for this. While there are Weider principles for quality and definition work, there are also Weider principles for getting big, massive muscles.
In this tape, we will describe the most effective and efficient ways of training for mass and strength, and examine which Weider principles are most helpful in achieving these goals. We will answer such questions as, what exercises are best for mass training? How much weight do you need to build maximum size? What kind of reps and sets program should you follow? How often should you train? How quickly? How much rest and recuperation do you need? What special training principles should you employ? And what kind of diet is best for getting big and strong? Of course, the overall volume of a muscle is affected by a number of factors. Mitochondrial mass, for example, the energy factories within a muscle cell, glycogenation, the amount of carbohydrate stored in the cell, and blood supply. But the most important structure that contributes to muscle size and strength, particularly as far as bodybuilders are concerned, is muscle fiber. You produce the most massive and strongest muscle possible by hypertrophying the muscle fiber, that is, making it bigger and stronger. You accomplish this by following the proper program of progressive resistance weight training and using the appropriate training principles to build maximum mass. And the most basic of these is training with heavy weight.
You have to have some muscle to work with before you start finishing it off. If you don't have the mass, there's nothing to finish. Then you're wasting time doing a lot of finishing movements when you don't have the muscle to finish off.
I still think I would be influenced to work reasonably heavy.
You can go for the burn all you want and you will not get results.
I agree with you that the heavier weights is where it's at as far as putting on the mass.
You really have to train for mass by training with heavy weights to interject and stimulate the muscles into responding.
They need to develop the muscle mass in order to get it, to have enough mass to file down later on for competition. And the only way to get that mass is to use heavy power training.
If you would normally come in every week and do 305 on the bench, once a month you should come in and go up to at least 405. And the same thing go for the back and the shoulders, as well as the legs and every other body part.
When I'm training for mass during the week, I like to take the first portion of the week and train heavy movements early in the week, and then by the time I get to the ending of the week, those movements lighten up because your energy level dips. So therefore, trying to get the most out of my training is in the mass building process is in the first portion of the week, the first 3 days.
So delts 1 week, you go heavy. Same thing applies for the back, same thing applies for the chest, and the same thing applies for the thighs. So once a week is more than enough.
The weight must be heavy enough to stimulate the muscle, but not too heavy that it hurts your muscle.
Only do what your mind and your body can handle. Don't do more.
Bodybuilders need to train with heavy weights. Women bodybuilders as well as men. A muscle fiber is a muscle fiber. And if women bodybuilders, or women training for health, fitness, and shape for that matter, don't train with substantial amounts of weight, they simply won't see the kinds of results they're working so hard for.
Power training is especially important for women bodybuilders because they come to the gym, they're not used to handling heavy weights, they've been told all their lives, don't touch that, it's too heavy, you can't train, you're going to get muscle bound. Well, their bodies work just the same as a man's body. It responds to the same type of training as a man's body. They need to develop the muscle mass in order to get it, to have enough mass to file down later on for competition. And the only way to get that mass is to use heavy power training.
I found that it was quite easy to put the size on as long as I stayed fairly heavy and lower reps. And until they reach the potential that they want to be at, or should I say get to the size that they want to be at, then they can lighten up their reps and their weights and stick to higher reps.
What a lot of women don't realize is that to get results, sometimes somewhere in their training career, they must train for mass. And in order to do that, they have to really bite the bullet and train heavy to stimulate the muscle into growth. I know that a lot of women listening to me are probably going to say, oh my gosh, I don't want to look like a weightlifter or a, East German swimmer or whatever image they have about over-muscled women. What they don't realize is when you talk about toning, when you talk about firm and tight bodies, you're talking about nothing more than muscle mass. And I think every woman alive wants a tight, firm body.
A woman in bodybuilding definitely needs a certain amount of muscle. She needs to define it. Without the muscle, she has nothing to define.
You can go for the burn all you want, and you will not get results. You will get burn and lactic acid buildup, and I've known lots of women who have burned their way through aerobics videos, and they get nothing but burnt out muscles. That does nothing for shape.
The athletes who lift the heaviest weight are weightlifters. That's the point of their sport. Bodybuilders are not weightlifters, but when it comes to building mass and strength, these two types of athletes have a lot in common.
I'm a competitive powerlifter. I'm only concerned with how much weight I can lift. I don't have to worry on how I'm going to look on stage. But the Weider principles that I use in my power training can also be used by bodybuilders who are trying to get as big and massive as possible.
How heavy do you need to train? Bodybuilding is not weightlifting, so how much weight you use is less important than how you feel working with a given weight and how training with it affects your body. In general, you choose a weight in bodybuilding that allows you to do a specific kind of set. For mass training, this is generally a weight that allows you to do 6 to 8 reps in each set. If you can do too many more reps than this, the weight is too light to allow you to build maximum mass and strength. If you fail before you reach the 6th rep, the weight you're using is too heavy. Training heavy is important for building mass, but what kind of training equipment you use is also extremely important. For the most part, bodybuilders intent on building maximum mass and strength should rely as much as possible on free weights, barbells, and dumbbells. The human body has evolved over millions of years to deal with the force of gravity, to lift, carry, and move things that have weight. When you lift a barbell or dumbbell, your body has to stabilize the weight against gravity. Secondary muscles, ligaments, and joints all come into play. The electrical activity in the entire nervous system that results when you do this is a clear sign of how much attention the body pays to something that has weight, as opposed to something that simply offers resistance, such as a machine in which you push back and forth along a track or rotate a cam.
Free weight is the best form of training because you can utilize machines. I believe machines like 20% of bodybuilding, 15%. The advantage about free weight, you have a greater freedom, range of motion. You control the weight. It works other muscles. You're not going one direction. You have other muscles coming to play. And the fact that enables you to stretch more, work out more, and keep the tension. When you're using machines, you go one direction, and the machine actually helps build the exercise for you, with you. With free weight, it's 100% of yourself.
I was brought up in the old school of bodybuilding where the free weights are the way you gain size. I myself enjoy being big, I like being muscular, and I don't think I could ever achieve it through using machines. You know, you've seen Arnold back in the days when he started, all free weights, and those guys they were big, muscular men.
I think that if you want to build mass, you use the barbells. I'm an old timer, believing in barbells and dumbbell presses to build the mass.
I don't think you can build muscle size through machines. This is only my opinion. Other people disagree.
I would use, say, the machine presses if I want to do something like a superset, even get a little bit more creative, doing a superset of, say, side laterals, cables supersetted with, say, a machine press. And I can get more isolation in that delt, but it's more of like a shaping exercise and more of a finishing exercise that would do right before, getting ready for a contest.